It's not the Captain and Tennille. It's not Simon and Garfunkel. It's even better than that when it gets dark. It's Chappy and it's Arnie and it's After Dark. Good evening, Phil Chaplin. How are you, my friend?
I'm wonderful, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing super. I've had a busy day today and I've enjoyed watching and listening to you earlier and listening to Lenny this morning. And then I did a couple of shows and I had a little bit of work to do today, so it's been a good day.
Yeah. Yeah. I got to float in the pool today. So I took the day off, and it's actually been a perfect day for me, Arnie. I got up this morning and, of course, looked at all the box scores and all that stuff. And then, had my morning coffee and broke down the box scores. And then we took the cover off the pool. And I floated around and thought about it for a couple of hours. So I got to go back to work tomorrow, but today was a great one.
Well, awesome. And I understand that the smells in the Chaplin household tonight are better than sugar plums dancing in your head, huh?
Yeah, wife's making dinner in the background, so we're it's gonna be a late dinner. We're eating like we're rich.
I love it. When you talk about box scores, can I start with this line and tell me who it is, okay?
Oh, you're killing me. Okay.
3.1 innings pitched. 4 hits, 6 earned, 4 walks, 3 Ks, and 3 home runs. And that was just last night. And it's a National Leaguer.
Is it Fulte?
Ding, 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 ding.
Yes!
You got it.
I never win. What do I get, Arnie?
I tell you what, I'll let you stay on the show with me for an hour. How about that?
Hey, that's a prize in and of itself.
So I'm watching. I've got, you can't see it, but I've got DirecTV and I've got it on the thing where you see all the games on one screen. So I got 8 games on at one time.
You're on overload.
I've got it all, and I'm looking at a score, and it's in the 5th inning, and it says NY Mets 5, Boston 1. What are the chances that Fulte now turns into a Red Sox?
Well, I talked about it a little bit. I don't think it's as clear cut as you think, Arn, because I think there's some other teams that clearly need him out there. I was kind of trying to go through a list of teams that would be interested in Mike Fulton-Avich, and it's more than a handful, right? So here's what I came up with. The Cubs, of course, being a homer, that they could use Fulton-Avich. The Brewers could use him. Of course, the Red Sox, like you say, the Twins could always use another arm. We talked about that last week. And how about the Rangers?
I got one more for you. Stay in that same state. I talked about what they don't have now earlier. What about the Astros?
Absolutely.
And they seem to be the king of reclamation anyway. You know what they did with Garrett Cole? They took an average pitcher. He was an average pitcher in Pittsburgh, and they turned him into a Cy Young. And what if they take Fulte, who's got all the talent in the world? That's, to me, the surprise pick that makes the most sense. I just can see the Astros bending over, grabbing him, and him going to Houston, and daggone it, he turns into a winner.
Can I tell you something, Arn?
Yeah, I'm ready.
I watched that game last night. You want to know what I saw?
Tell me.
Mike Fulton-Avich is tipping the pitches. When you watch him, when you could see him from the front, and he's doing this with his bottom 2 fingers, it's the breaker.
Mm-hmm.
When he's more like this, straight up and down, it's the heater.
You may not remember this. That's a simple fix. Well, and you may not remember this, but in 1996, the Yankees are in the World Series against Atlanta. Andy Pettitte starts one of the first 2 games in New York and absolutely gets blasted. He's tipping his pitches.
Yeah.
The Yankees make him aware of it. He pitches again at one of the most historic pitching duels in World Series history. It's Smoltz and Pettitte, Game 5. Yankees win 1-0. Pettitte doesn't tip pitches. What a difference 4 days made. And you know how the Astros are. We've talked about them ad nauseum. They're going to get the pitch tippinitis out of Mike Fultonavich.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to turn into a superstar.
Yeah. Well, he's shown. I mean, you look at what he did the last 2 months of the season last year. I think they showed it was 8-1 with a 2-something ERA. He was in the deciding game for the Braves last year at the end of the year, and they cut him after the first game. Let me say this, Arn. I don't think this was about Mike Fultonavich. Excuse me.
You're good.
Getting all choked up.
Yeah, I can tell. Well, back to the emotion, Chappy. Yeah.
I think this is more about these young pitchers the Braves have. I think this is more about Ian Anderson. I think this is more about Kyle Muller, about Bryce Wilson.
I wonder. Okay, I'm going to make a comparison here just for you and I to banter for a moment. We'll move on because I want to ask you about who I'm going to write down a name and I'm going to just a second. Let me do this. All right, I'm going to write down a name and I'm going to see if you can read my mind. You can't see this piece of paper, and if you could, there's on the other side is where I wrote. I'm going to hold that for a minute. But here's a analogous picture. Fultonavich has not worked that well in Atlanta the last couple of years. Agreed? Sonny Gray didn't work that good in New York.
Right.
But doggone it, he went to Cincinnati, and Sonny Gray, I read some stat on him the other day. I'll probably miss it, but it was like so many consecutive games of not giving up more than 3 earned runs. I think it was a ridiculous number, like 23 or 24, something like that. Some environments just do not bode well for certain pitchers. It used to be New York for certain pitchers. I think for Fultonavich, it's gotten right here. There's something about being in Atlanta that's not working. Right. Again, hopefully for him, he goes to somewhere like a Houston, and we talked about other teams, but I just think to me that's where he lands. Let me ask you this. There are players playing now in the National League, and I know we talked about last week. We're going to spend some time in the National League this week because we didn't last week. I've written down a name, and if you had to pick a potential rookie of the year right now, National League, tell me who, what position, and the team.
Let me tell you. Let me preface this, Arnie, because I love Lenny. He's great. He does a great job, and he made a great point about Tyler Stevenson this morning. I'm not going to talk about Tyler Stevenson. Tyler Stevenson's great. He's going to be a really good catcher. Who I really want to talk about, who I think people don't understand just how good of a player he really is the brand new catcher for the Atlanta Braves, William Contreras. That's right. Sounds familiar, right? Wilson's little brother. This is a kid. I'll tell you, he's just 22 years old, Arnie. But so this is straight from his older brother's mouth. He's a far better athlete than I am. He's a better hitter than I am. He's followed the same path. He came up as a third baseman and moved him to catcher because of his athleticism. He had a 3-hit game in his second major league career game. It took his brother, who did it remarkably fast, 20 games. So you're talking about a potential of a guy taking a job and just not giving it back up. That's the type of potential that William Contreras has.
I got to do this because you alerted me to this kid last year. So we were talking last year about prospects.
Yeah.
And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I was talking about the Texas Rangers catcher, and you said, but Arn, there's a catcher out in the Atlanta system. His name is William Contreras. It's Wilson's younger brother. Look out, he's going to be really good.
Yeah.
Not saying that the Texas catcher is not going to be really good. Right. We were just talking about potential prospects. And looking at the situation in Atlanta, look, they've gone so long without a standout catcher. And this is a position, he's young, he's athletic. I think in a short season, he is a big, big winner over 60 games to get time in at the level that he's at. Look how that can carry over to next year. And look, you know this and I know this. Atlanta can very well win the World Series this year.
Right.
Anybody can, except for maybe, as I've said, a couple. I'm thinking I'm going to have Boston to my list of teams that can't win it. But the Braves with Contreras, hey, sky's the limit. This team is young, athletic. They run, they hit, they field. The pitching you've already touched on. Maybe isn't there a lot to love about the Braves over the next 5 to 7 years?
Absolutely. And I want to make one other point. Because when I talk about Wilson saying William is better than him, you're talking about a middle of the lineup bat for one of the best offenses in the game.
Yeah.
A catcher. Yeah. And he's potentially a better hitter than that. I mean, the ceiling is so high on this kid. And I remember that conversation, Arnie, because they had just drafted Shea Langeliers, the catcher from TCU, in the first round. And, I was kind of trying to trace Shea Langeliers versus Otley Rushman, who I think Langeliers is a better catcher than Rushman. I'll say that again. I think Langeliers is a better catcher than Rushman.
Write that down, everybody.
But I think Contreras is better than both of them.
Rushman is a franchise in the making with the Orioles. Yeah. And if Contreras is better than that, because we were talking about the draft last year and why teams, we were talking about rookie players in that same conversation. Why did teams draft like they drafted? Right. And our discussion a year ago was, why would the Braves draft another catcher with who they had in their system in waiting?
Right. And it's leverage, right? It's all about leverage because that's what it is. So it's just like the Dodgers are doing with Will Smith and Keibert Ruiz. They're doing the exact same thing. These teams that go out and spend all this money in draft capital and scouting these players, they're able to do that because everybody knows. It's just like last year with the Pirates trying to trade Felipe Vasquez to the Dodgers. What do they want? They wanted a catcher.
Yep.
They wanted a catcher. People know they're hard to get, especially offensive-minded catchers. And that's what we're talking about in both of those situations. So you're talking about William Contreras comes up and turns into an all-star. All of a sudden, you got really good draft capital in Shea Langeliers to try and trade and get an ace or that extra big bat.
And can't you see that happening even as early as this year? I mean, if the Braves, they're young players, the Contrerases, now Acuna's off to a slow start, but I've talked about that already. I don't give much credence to the first week of a season, good or bad. It's a balance act. Because if you're hitting 700 right now, like the kid is out in Florida before they were shut down, he's not going to hit 700, just like Acuna and Yelich aren't going to hit 080. That isn't happening. But if the Braves are there at the end of the year and some other teams have dropped out and there is an ace out there,
right,
you can see that trade happening as early as 2020 because this. Look, the Dodgers are a great example. Last World Series trip, not that long ago. Last World Series championship, 32 years ago. Yeah. So when you get the chance to win, Chicago Cub fan Phil Chaplin,
right. Yep.
You better win now because you don't take for granted that. I mean, it's been 11 years since the Yankees won a World Series.
Yeah,
11 years.
Yeah,
the Giants have won 3 since the Yankees have won 1.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Arn, I got to ask you something.
Yeah.
So, just like you asked me about the Rookie of the Year and all that stuff, I talked a little bit at 7 o'clock about Nate Pearson.
Mm-hmm. I heard that.
I'm wondering, so if we're kind of talking about the hitter of the year. What rookie pitcher do you think is really kind of not getting enough publicity that maybe should be?
Okay, well, I brought some baseball cards with me tonight. I've got a few here. Let me get 1 second. Let me find the card. Okay, I got it out. But before I give you I'll lead in with this way. Dustin May's a great pitcher.
Yes.
And I really like
he really is
the fact that he is in a great situation in LA. I think the Kershaw injury at the time it happened probably couldn't happen at a better time for the Dodgers, because we know they've already put a lefty on the IL today. When Kershaw comes back in about a week, May stays in the rotation.
Yeah.
So he's obviously, as we say, the rich man's favorite. I mean, he's the chalk pick, right? But can I throw one at you who's not necessarily chalk?
That's what I'm waiting for.
I've got his baseball card. You know, I'm a baseball card. You see behind me, everything behind me is autographed, Chappy. And you can look and you can tell what's behind me. But I got one right here. Let me read the back of his card first. Number 2 prospect for this particular team. He posted a 1.29 ERA in 7 starts for Clearwater in 2019. Snared first Double-A win August 22nd. He pitched 11.8 strikeouts per 9 in his 2018 debut. He has a biting slider, above average curve and changeup, and a fastball in the mid-90s. And this team needs pitching like Santa Claus needs a red suit. Spencer Howard of the Philadelphia Phillies. I think Spencer Howard and May the obvious chalk pick because of his situation. But look, Philadelphia is going to be in a dogfight for when they start back playing, for the next 57 games. They're in a division that could be won or lost by 1 or 2 games, and it can involve the Mets, who I think are the cream of the crop right now, the Nationals, the Braves, and the Phillies. 4 teams. I don't know now that all 4 might not make it because of the 8 teams making it, but you could have almost 500 records. Spencer Howard will be up by the end of the week or the first of next week. He will stay in that rotation just like Luke Pearson. He's in that same category. Maybe he doesn't throw quite as hard, but hard enough. And I really like what Spencer Howard will bring to Philadelphia. And I tell you what, to me, you've heard me say this before, Chappy. I like to hear what the managers say about their players, and I like to hear what the players say about their players.
Yeah.
What did Bryce Harper say about Spencer Howard? He said to his management, put him on the opening day roster. There were 2 players he wanted on the opening day roster. He wanted Spencer Howard. He wanted Alec Baum. He wanted both of those players on the opening day roster. So if a Philly player like Bryce Harper, and criticize him, say what you want, but Bryce loves to win.
Right. He's competitive.
Exactly. And so him saying put Spencer Howard on the opening day tells you he's better than one of the 5 we've got.
Yeah.
And if he knows it, so does Joe Girardi, so does management, so does ownership. He'll be up next week.
Yeah, and I think there's a handful of guys that fall in that same category, right? You look at what Detroit did last night.
Oh yeah.
How is neither Mize or Manning better than any of those guys that they have? Matt Boyd included, Arnie. You look at, I'll tell you, just like we talked about with Fulton Avich, I think Kyle Wright isn't getting appreciated. Talking about first overall pick, a Vanderbilt guy, someone who's come, he's played at a high level. I really like Kyle Wright. The Braves have done a good job of developing their pitchers. So you have a handful of these guys that might be lightning in a bottle. And it's interesting because as these guys come up and they start to get opportunities, just like I talked earlier, you don't want a donut hole sitting on your bench.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as a guy is active and playing, they all of a sudden, the potential that they have far outweighs a middling player. So I'll tell you, I love Spencer Howard, but I also think the Mize, the Manning, those players of the world. There's a handful of them that could really impact this game this year, Arn.
How about your boy in Pittsburgh? We've talked about him till the cows come home. Was it Sunday he pitched? And I thought he looked pretty good. Tell us a little bit about him, Chappy. I mean, we've been talking about him. What's your thoughts on their prospect? Star. I mean, he's here.
Keller.
Yeah, but Mitch Keller, what's he going to do? I mean, is he here to stay?
Oh yeah. I'll tell you, and I'll keep saying it because I think people need to hear it. I think you get this assumption when you talk about the Pirates. It's a different run team. These guys know these are competent managers now. So guys like Joe Musgrove, guys like Mitch Keller, they're going to come out and get better and better, and all of a sudden there are going to be these big values. Now, Keller's got to miss more bats. He had 2 strikeouts, 3 walks. Yeah. But considering what he did last year versus what he showed the other night, I'll take it. But he needs to miss bats if he's going to be an effective pitcher. And I think he can do that. I mean, he did that last year. He just missed the strike zone a lot too, right?
Yeah. Well, and I want to go to the American League for a moment. You've already mentioned Pearson in your 7 o'clock show. Truly a great talent. I think he's either 7th or 8th top prospect in all of baseball. But
7th.
But I'm a Jordan Montgomery nut.
Oh, I talked about him too.
Yeah, I know.
Ahead.
And so I got to take one of the two, Chappy. Do I take Pearson or do I take Montgomery? I got to take one, and I can only take one. You got to help me out.
You know what I'm going to say. I love Montgomery. I mean, here's the guy. Here's the thing about Montgomery. He only got sent down as a matter of the numbers, right? I mean, he got sent down with an idea of slotting him in between Cole and Paxton on that second time around. So here we are. What happens? It all gets screwed up because of this stupid COVID crap. And now he's going to get pitched back. He might not pitch till Saturday or Sunday. But it's undeniable that he's not probably the second or third best pitcher on that team.
Tanaka's coming off the IL.
He's better than Tanaka.
Hap.
Clearly.
So, and Paxton's not Paxton right now.
Exactly.
His velo is down, and they're calling it dead arm.
Right.
Well, whatever
I don't buy
it
it, Arnie. I don't buy it.
I think his back is still giving him trouble. He had that surgery in spring. It was a really quick recovery for Big Maple. And you take pitchers with bad backs, Clayton Kershaw, and it affects their velocity.
Right.
So Jordan Montgomery could very quickly become a number 2 on one of the best teams in baseball, pitching right behind Garrett Cole, throwing upper 90s.
Increased velocity.
I'm totally in love with Jordan Montgomery.
I have him everywhere, Arnie. I have him everywhere. I really do. I mean, I've said that. I think he's the number 2 pitcher. He's what Paxton was supposed to be. He's got added velo. He's added a mile and a half average to his fastball. He's got control and command. I mean, you're talking about a big lefty that he's going to be hard to hit. And that's the type of weapon come down the stretch when you're talking about skinnying down your rotation to a 1-2-3 for a series. Man, it's hard to match up with that big lefty. And
if Paxton does come around by playoff time,
yep.
And now you've got Cole, Paxton, and
makes you the favorite. It makes you the favorite.
Those 3 are huge. Did you watch the Kansas City Cleveland game on Saturday? Did you watch My boy Brady Singer pitching Saturday.
Didn't he go up against Clevenger?
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it.
What a game!
I'll tell you. I mean, you were spot on. He looks like a really good pitcher, and he's someone that should be picked up if you're needing pitching and you're in a year-long league. I think that's repeatable.
I love the fact that Kansas City is playing the Central teams this year. They don't play the Houstons. They don't play the Oaklands. They don't play the Yankees. They don't play the Red Sox. They don't play these juggernaut offenses. Not that there aren't good offenses, because there's some teams with good offenses, but let's face it. Cleveland's offense is not Boston's. It's not the Yankees. It's not Houston.
Right.
They're the best offense in the American League Central, I think, is the White Sox. But we've seen – no, they're not. The Twins. I had to say the White Sox. But we've seen the Twins, when they face good pitching, what has happened to them every playoff. But I know we're not playing playoff baseball. We're playing regular season baseball. But Cleveland's pitching, Minnesota's hitting. But other than Minnesota, there's not a really potent offense. Chicago, a lot of strikeouts in that lineup. We've seen that the last few days. And Brady Singer's going to draw those guys all year. He gets Detroit on Thursday. And as much as I wanted to see him pitch against Cleveland, I can't wait to see him pitch against Detroit. They score some runs, but they strike out a ton.
Right.
I think he's another rookie pitcher who's got a big future. Look, before Saturday, he never threw above Double-A.
Right.
And he owned Cleveland.
Well, and like you say, I mean, you really have to take that into account when you're looking at this type of baseball. Who is the competition playing? So, yeah, if you get a kid like that comes up and has found something, right? He's found control command. He's found, a good pitch mix. Then you have to look and see. I mean, if you're going up against the AL East and the NL East, you might not want to target him. But as it happens, you're going up against the AL Central and the NL Central. I think that's really a very perceptive point, Arn.
So let's talk about, we've had about 4 or 5 games. You've seen some games. I've seen some games. Let's go back to the National League for a moment. We've talked pitchers. Can we talk hitters? Who has been someone we've not mentioned in the National League, a hitter for you that has either been a surprise or has exceeded expectations this far in the season?
That's so tough. That's so open-ended. So I'll tell you, potentially, okay, who I really like. And I talked a little bit about him. I really am intrigued in this short season by David Dahl.
Mm-hmm.
Hitting leadoff for the Rockies. I mean, I know he's fought his injury bugaboos, but you got to think, being protected by Trevor Story, Charlie Blackmon, Nolan Arenado in that ballpark. The ball's juiced again this year. That ballpark helps them. I really like what David Dahl brings to the table. And I feel like, again, me, I'm bringing it back this year to DFS at $2,900 today on DFS. That's a huge value, Arnie.
No doubt. And any Rocky, I mean, you could go up and down that order. Story hit 2 home runs in one game. But Dahl, the difference is if Dahl can stay healthy for 60 games,
right?
They're pitching. I know it's only been a small sample, Chappy. I know
Ray looks good,
but it's looked pretty good.
Yeah.
It's looked good enough that they could be one of the 8. I mean, if you're one of the great 8, that's what you're shooting for this year.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. The Padres look really good.
Now you're going where I'm going.
Yeah, the Padres look really good, and the Dodgers are going to be there. So you're talking about 2 teams that you have to So you got an uphill battle against the Padres, but the Rockies, if they can pitch a little bit, and a guy like Hampson or Hilliard can come through, and the veterans play. I know it's a lot of ifs, but it kind of lines up for him pretty well. I just
like
want to see how it works out. I mean,
yeah, well, I give you another team in the West. I watched them all weekend. I tell you, if you heard me at 6 o'clock, I didn't spend much time on this particular player, but I spent some time on the Friars out on the West Coast. San Diego,
oh yeah,
early in the year, they have a lot of energy. And as you talk about the leadoff hitter for the Rockies, and really David Dahl, it's a little bit of an unknown, right? Because
right.
we've never really seen a full season. The leadoff hitter for the Padres, we didn't really see a full season out of him last year, but we got a good glimpse of Fernando Tatis Jr. And what I see out of Fernando Tatis Jr. early in the year, if he plays the 60-game schedule, I think the Padres can make the playoffs. I think they can be a top-tier division playoff team. And I think Tatis could be most valuable player. They've got pitching. Oh, man, those top three starters. Now, I tell you, I said it at 6 o'clock. I was trying to repeat myself. But I think they can bring up two youngsters from the minor leagues to be the fourth and fifth. And if you do that, the Padres can be TOUGH.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I mean, I was, you know how I am. I'm always looking at the leaderboards, even this early in the year. The one guy I didn't realize, Tommy Pham has 4 stolen bases
already.
Yeah, so they want to run him, right? So you're talking about what that does is that adds flexibility, right? So you could put Pham at leadoff, or you could put Tatis at leadoff. I like what the Padres are working with, and I'll tell you right now, I mean, you look at what they've built up, whether it's Garrett Richards, Dinelson Laurent, Chris Paddock. Chris Paddock might be Cy Young this year. I mean, he's that good, right? Mm-hmm. And then you throw into the equation 2 wild cards, which, you know, everybody talks about Mackenzie Gore, rightfully so. Luis Patino's every bit as good of a pitcher.
All of them are strikeout pitchers. They're all power pitchers. Look, 15 innings started among those 3. Garrett Richards being the third starter. 15
the other one, right?
2 earned runs. 2. And Arizona is not chopped liver, Chappy. I mean, right. Arizona, again, I think they can make the playoffs this year too.
People forget how good Garrett Richards was supposed to be.
He was the ace out in Anaheim.
Yeah, and he was a big prospect. I mean, he just ran into a gauntlet of injuries.
And now
he's got to start 10 games, 12 games.
Yeah, that's all he's got to do.
And that's why
if this is a 162-game schedule, I don't think the Padres do it this year.
Right.
But it's not.
Right.
And they look really good, don't they?
They do, and they have depth. I mean, that's the thing. So here's my question. Do you think you see C.J. Abrams this year? Yeah, I mean,
look,
it's really good.
San Diego showed me something last year. Exactly. They've been criticized for bringing Tatis Jr. up last year. But had they not brought him up last year, he'd be a rookie this year.
Yeah.
Crazy like a fox, right? They probably weren't going to win last year, but because he has a year under his belt, he's a lot more prepared for whatever happens this year. Plus, he's only got to play 60 games. But by them bringing him up last year, that shows me they'll bring up anybody. If they think they got a chance, they'll bring those guys up, don't you think? They've done it with the very best they have. Why wouldn't they do it with other players?
Can I give you a bold prediction, Arnie?
I'm ready.
You know I love to do that, right?
I love
it. If we don't see C.J. Abrams this year, this time next year, he will be the number 1 prospect. Number 1 overall. He is that good. He's a power speed. This guy could steal 60 bases.
Don't you think we see him this year, though? I think we see him this year.
I think you do, because you can put him in as a pinch runner. You can play him right now. You can play him at second base, shortstop, or center field. He's the best outfielder on the team, and he hasn't even freaking played out there, Arnie, because he is so fast. And he's kind of got the Verlander mentality in that he's so competitive. Nothing phases this kid. My humble opinion, this guy's so much better of a ball player than Wander Franco is. It's not funny.
Oh, now that's why we tune in after dark to listen to this show. Look at his grades. Look, he's got a 60 hit tool. Pretty good, right?
Yeah.
For those of you watching who are watching just because Chappy and I are so dashing and debonair, let me explain to you what a 60 hit tool is. 50 hit tool means average at the major league level. So 60 is a step above average. But here's the most impressive thing about him to me. All of his grades are 50 or better.
Yeah.
But how about that run tool?
Oh.
How many? I've only seen 2 prospects with an 80 tool.
Yeah.
I saw Vladdy last year. His hit tool was 80. I see CJ Abrams this year. His run tool is 80. He's 19 years old.
Right.
And I think the Padres have the kahunas to call him up and let him play.
Put him in center field. Right now. Put him in center field. He's your best center fielder.
With 80 speed?
Yeah.
Look, he's a shortstop by trade,
right,
which tells me anybody I see playing shortstop, maybe this is a wrong assumption, okay? But I assume if they're a shortstop, they can probably also play center field. I just do.
Yeah. But the thing about Abrams is he's never been overmatched. Even at 19 years old, he's playing above his age. He's never been overmatched. And, they're definitely being aggressive with him. This is not, like you said, this is not your normal year. If this were a normal year, you wouldn't be talking about CJ Abrams getting called up. Just like I always talk about with Alek Manoah. If this were your normal year, Alek Manoah wouldn't be getting called up. Alek Manoah's your closer in Toronto, Arnie.
No doubt.
It might take a couple failed attempts from some other pitchers.
But look, now the door is open.
Exactly.
Ken Giles is probably out for the year with that elbow.
Right.
They're fishing in the dark trying to find someone.
Right.
And all along, you've got Manoah who's there in waiting. And look, they're bringing up Pearson tomorrow. They'll bring up Manoah soon after that.
Yeah.
Think about that combination.
Well, and Reed Foley's the other one, right? I mean, I think that he's another guy that gets some consideration early on, especially if they're successful.
And I just think Toronto is the American League equivalent of San Diego in some ways. And I think Chicago's figured it out because what they're doing with Luis Robert was genius. We've seen him play. I saw him play single A and knew this kid could play.
Yeah, I did too.
I mean, they signed him to a 5-year contract. It's very little money.
Right.
Bring him up. And I just see more teams doing that, particularly with COVID-19 and the effects it's having on our country. Why doesn't San Diego go ahead and sign Abrams to a 5 or 6 year deal? Right. Give him about $8 million.
Get him on the field.
Boom.
I mean, it's bad for guys like Yasiel Puig, but it's certainly good for some of these. You look at, Brandon Lau, I talked about earlier. They signed him to a major league contract. They put him on the field. Lau's going to play. He's going to hit the middle of the lineup. When you do that, it just frees up so much. And you can get them somewhat at a discounted rate because they haven't hit their peak yet.
No.
So, it just makes sense. If you have a guy like Abrams, sign him to your big league deal and get him out on the field.
Just like the White Sox did with Luis Robert. And
exactly.
Answer me. Let me tell you, I got a commercial time. Are you ready? Commercial time. I'm not King Hap. I'm not going to advertise I'm going to advertise. You've heard me tell you this. Luis Roberts' baseball cards are wow.
Yeah.
Look, I got a baseball card, not autographed, just a regular baseball card of Luis Robert. I sent it off to be graded. It's a PSA 10. I looked at it about 2 months ago. It's like $80. Guess what they're selling for on eBay today, Phil Chaplin?
More than 80. More than $80.
$400.
Jesus.
I'm just saying, and I've told you this before. You can look. Fantasy is interesting. Fantasy and baseball card values kind of come together.
Yeah.
When you see a player whose card was $80 and all of a sudden it's $400,
there's a reason.
That tells you that back can hit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you, it's funny. I know we've talked off air about this often. I did that a couple years ago. Of course, I don't know it as well as you do, but I know I have some signed Chris Bryant's, some signed Kyle Schwarber's, some signed Yoan Moncada's. I just need to go fish them out. We need to talk because I'm pretty sure there's some money sitting out of my garage.
Did I tell you? I told you about my my Tatis card, right? I told you that story.
Yeah.
I mean, incredible. So it's all about picking a player before he ascends. Yep. You know, if you're going right now and you're trying to find Luis Robert, you're too late.
Yeah.
If you're trying to find Acuna, you're too late. CJ Abrams probably not too late yet. I'm looking at him right now.
Right.
And they're not in that category yet. But guess what? They're not far away. I tell you who else is a high-priced baseball card right now?
Yeah.
Clark Schmidt for the Yankees.
Yeah. That's your boy.
I mean, wow. Blow up. Anyway, enough about baseball cards. We'll move on to something else. So now that we've talked about high-rise people, let's talk a minute about disappointments. And I got a list that's longer than my arm, okay? I want to talk about two superstars for a moment, and I want to get your take on it. Again, it's 4 games.
You're going to hurt my feelings.
I got to do it, man. I got to. I tell you what, I'll stay away from the Cubs.
You don't have to, but okay.
Fair play. I won't talk about Chris Bryant.
It's fair play. It's fair.
But I will talk about 2 others who were drafted, I bet you, in every fantasy league in the top 5 picks. What's going on with our boy Acuna in Atlanta and our boy Christian Yelich in Milwaukee?
I'm just glad you didn't say Trey Turner.
Hey, I watched him hit a double a few minutes ago. That's the only reason I left him out of that discussion. Okay?
I'll tell you. So you're talking about Acuna and you're talking about Yelich. Who do I trust more?
Start with Acuna.
Okay, so Acuna, I think he's interesting because it's one of those things where he's a leader now. And a lot of eyes are looking at him. And that carries a different amount of responsibility, right? So I think he's maybe feeling a little bit of that. And then you couple in the fact that Freddie Freeman is around early in camp. Mm-hmm. First off, let me say, I think they're both fine. I'm all right with both of them. I think they'll be okay. But fact of the matter is with Acuna, you know, for him to steal bases, he's got to be on the bases. And he just hasn't been a whole lot early, right?
No.
So I think both of those guys, their true talent comes through. I think Yelich comes through quicker because I think that I think Yelich is the best player in the game right now, Arn. And yeah, it's a slow start, but I think when he gets comfortable, he gets back in the swing of things, he gets to Miller Park, he starts playing some series there. I think that evens out in his favor. There's a couple series where he just goes off. Acuna, I think, is a little bit more of a gradual get back to normal. But I think they both get there.
Combined right now, Chappy, if you had them both in your fantasy team, you'd be looking at a 4 for 45.
Yeah, it's not good.
Acuna is 3 for 23. And check this out. No stolen bases, no home runs.
Yeah.
Yelich is 1 for 22.
Yeah.
1 home run against the Cubs on Saturday.
Right.
And 3 RBIs. Not what we would expect the first week of the season from Christian Yelich or Ronald Acuna Jr.
Well, and I'll tell you, I said this last week, and I think it rings true as well. When you look at the Dodgers, you look at their team, and if you didn't know anything about the names of the players or any of that stuff, who would you think the high-priced players were?
Well, you wouldn't think it was Cody Bellinger right now.
Right.
You wouldn't think it was. You would think it would be Kiki.
Exactly. You'd think it would be Corey Seager. You'd think it'd be Justin Turner. I mean, those are the guys, and that's scary. If those are the guys that are hitting right now, if they could just continue, and then you add on Belly and Betts and those guys.
Yeah, and Belly's hitting 235 coming into tonight.
He doesn't look right.
He doesn't look right. And, there was talk in the offseason that he had changed his batting stance. Remember all that? He was trying. Yeah. Okay, here's my question. Chappy, answer me this. We overthink way too much in our society sometimes. If you're sick, you stay home. That doesn't take a rocket scientist, correct?
We're not politicking here, are we?
No. I'm analogizing. If you're an MVP, why change anything? Look, he hits over 40 homers. He drives in over 100 runs. He was hitting close to 400 the first 2 months, and we know that will never last with anybody in our game today, but he was the most valuable player in the league last year. Why tinker with it, Chappy? We overthink sometimes. And look at Mookie Betts. Can you imagine? Oh, my gosh. Can you imagine if Mookie Betts were a Met or a Yankee or a Philly, and he signs this big contract, and he walks up to the plate, now batting for the Dodgers or Yankees, hitting 150, Mookie Betts. I mean, they're not going to hit that all year. I know, and you're so right. They are scary.
Yeah.
When these two guys start to pump it out, along with the rest of the crowd, are the Dodgers the best team in baseball?
Can I give you an analogy? I've been like you just set this on the tee for me.
I always do that for my wingman. You know that.
So you talked about Bellinger, and you talked about why would he change? We won the MVP last year. Let's talk about first versus second half stats. We all know he got off to this big start, right? He had 336 in the first half. He had 30 home runs in the first 88 games. Now, I say 88 games because I don't want it to sound skewed. I understand that there was 20 more games on the front end than there was on the back end. I get it. He had 336, 30 homers, 71 RBIs in the first 88 games. What do you think he hit in the second half?
He hit about
68 games.
He hit about 220 in the second half.
Not that bad. He had 263.
Okay.
How many homers?
10.
17. How many runs? He had 70 in the first half.
He had 35 in the second.
51. So he did. So I think you're overcompensating because you know where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah, I know
but
exactly.
The fact of the matter is, you're talking about a 263 hitter with, let's say, projected out 30 homer potential, 17 homers in the second half after the All-Star break. That's why he didn't want to change his swing. He needed to change his swing. Fair?
Is it going to work though? I mean, here's the thing.
He doesn't have April, May, and June to figure it out, right?
Exactly. That's where I'm going. And we know this. I played ball. I mean, it's all about confidence.
Oh, I know.
I can go up there. I don't care who's pitching. I can hit it. Or I can go up there. I don't care who's pitching. I'm getting out.
Right.
And when you start to have self-doubt, you can take a great ball player and turn him into just something average. I'm just thinking, Bailey, go up there, see the ball, hit the ball. Let's make it simple.
Yeah, if I'm his hitting coach, I'm sitting down and I'm showing him this first 2 months of the season last year. I'm saying, do that. Do that. Because he's the best hitter in the game.
And with that team, look.
Yeah.
Love what Dave Roberts is. Dave Roberts is left, right, left, right, left, right, or right, left, right, left, right, left. Every game. He's alternating because of this new rule. Yeah. But there's no weak spot.
Right.
And so if you've got a game, particularly where Betts is the right-handed batter leading off, and Bellinger is number 2, and that's going to happen, or you're going to have Betts number 2 and Belly number 3, that's going to happen. There's going to be good hitters behind him and in front of him. That's my point. He's going to get good pitches to hit. Just hit it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll tell you, I mean, so I think with me anyway, the players in that lineup that it all comes down to, and I touched on it earlier, it's Justin Turner. It's Corey Seager. Max Muncy looks like an MVP. I mean, he looks like the best hitter on that team right now. But then you add in that young pitching staff. The Dodgers are kind of setting themselves up for running it all. And they might be the best team this year, Arn.
I could see it. I tell you what I notice about the Yankees. You know, I'm a Yankee fan.
Yep.
But I like to think I look at it realistically. The Yankees have a lot of thump, but they don't have the Justin Turner.
Right.
Now, DJ LeMahieu can be that.
Ooh,
he hasn't been there, okay? LeMahieu can, and that's what he has been. So, assuming LeMahieu returns to health and is good, he can be that type player, and he's probably better than Turner with that Yankee team. But the Dodgers have speed, power, contact hitters.
Yeah.
The Yankees are loaded with power, and the Yankees also are loaded with what? Right-handed bats. They are the most right-handed team I've ever seen in my lifetime play for the New York Yankees. There's not that balance. And like I said a moment ago, Roberts is left, right, every game. The Yankees can't do that because they don't have enough left. Now, they could if they would play their best players. Tauchman is better than Hicks.
He's interesting. I mean, I watched him, I think the first night, and he's a good hitter. He really is. I don't want to sit here and pretend to know about the Yankees like you do. I know you watch them much more closely than I do. The thing that impresses me, though, about them is how good Giancarlo Stanton is. Stanton might be the MVP this year.
Wow, yeah.
I mean, he looks like he's lost 30 pounds in a good way. The other night I watched him. He's facing Max Scherzer. He's got Aaron Judge comes up in front of him. Doesn't discipline hit. I think he popped out or struck out. I don't remember. But the first pitch, Scherzer paints one in the outside corner. He takes it straight to right field. That's just good hitting. And that's the type of player Stanton is when he's 100%. I love Stanton this year, and I think he's the bedrock of that team.
I totally agree. And you've got a great second baseman in Gleyber Torres, or shortstop rather.
Right.
LeMahieu's a great hitter, but what have they all got in common? They're all right-handed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even your bench players like Andujar, right-handed. Voit, right-handed. Sanchez, right-handed. So if you're starting 9 batters,
right,
you've only got 1 or 2 at the most who are lefties. You just don't have that balance. And face it, Brett Gardner's on the tail end of a career.
Yeah.
And Aaron Hicks, bless his heart, he just can't hit.
No.
Okay? He can field. Bring him in the 8th inning, let him play the last 2 innings. But bless his heart, he can't hit. And that's where the Dodgers have a little bit of an edge, I think, on the Yankees. I tell you where I think the difference could be between those two teams, if that's who we see, and we never know about baseball. I still am a little concerned about right now. I'm leading you up. I'm leading you, Chappy. You ready?
Always.
I'm leading you because I'm a little concerned about the Dodger bullpen.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I'll tell you, but that's okay. Because if there's ever been a team that could absorb that, I mean, I think Brusdar Graterol is the guy there, right? I think that, it might take a little bit to get to him. You might have some failed experiments with Jansen and then Treinen and maybe even Baez. But I think when it all comes down to it, you're going to see Graterol in that ninth inning role. I think, it's been said, and we've talked about it before, Josiah Gray is the name that people don't know about that need to. If you're in fantasy, if you're in any sort of dynasty league, Josiah Gray is a name you have to know. He is the next big thing in LA. He might be better than May. He might be better than Bueller. He is that good, Arnie. And fact of the matter is, you could bring him up right now. He could pitch in the eighth.
The thing about the Dodgers, and I've grown up watching the Dodgers since the 70s. Okay, now I don't go back like Lenny to the 50s, but I can go back to the 70s. And I can tell you the one thing the Dodgers have always been able to do, Chappy, is bring up a stud pitcher.
Yeah.
You can go back to the 60s. Back when Drysdale and Koufax were hurling shutouts, they brought up a kid named Don Sutton, who went on to win over 300 games and a Hall of Famer in his own right.
Yeah.
During the 70s, when Sutton is a star, they bring up a kid named Bob Welch, who I don't think anyone has topped his 27 wins with Oakland in 1990. It's always been somebody of recent note.
He's one of my earliest memories. Yeah.
Yeah. Fernando in 1980 pitched in a playoff game before his rookie year.
Yeah.
And then we know what he did in 81, the Mania hit. And I like to refer to him as the GOAT of my generation in LA. Hershiser. It goes on and on. And then recent memory, as Kershaw is the star, Bueller comes up. Now Bueller could be the star. May comes up, and now May could be the star. And here's Josiah Gray. It's just the pattern.
Here's the thing. I think people oftentimes when I say what I just said, people want to jump to the conclusion that I'm saying Walker Bueller isn't very good. I'm not saying that. I'm saying Josiah Gray is going to be better. And that's what – so you're talking about in 5 years, you're talking about a front three of Walker Bueller, Dustin May, and Josiah Gray. Show me a better three.
I will argue this with you just because we like to do this with each other. Isn't it setting up for a great 5 to 10 year period between the Padres and the Dodgers?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a great point. So you're talking about Paddock, you're talking about Patino, and you're talking about Mackenzie Gore. I mean, I think it's very similar, right? Both of those organizations. Now, the only difference is, in my humble opinion, this isn't the Dodgers' first go-round. They've done this. This is a working model for them. Mm-hmm. Preller's still just figuring it out in San Diego.
Well, the Dodgers have been doing it since time immemorial. We just talked about that.
Right.
And I think it's a pattern. They probably wouldn't acknowledge it, but it's a pattern San Diego's learning from. I mean, they're probably tired of Big Brother beating them up over the years. How do we beat Big Brother? We play like Big Brother.
Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery there is, right, Arn?
And that's why so many podcasters are watching Phil Chaplin, because to be like Chappy is the old commercial, to be like Mike. Remember those Gatorade commercials?
We tell them how to do it, Arn, right? I mean, it's not like I don't hide anything. I'm a humble guy. But it's fun to do this. It's fun to really. I always have this mindset, and I tell people this, whether I'm in a fantasy league with you or we're just chewing the fat one-on-one. Chess isn't any fun when you're playing a kid, right? Chess is fun when you're playing someone who is at the same skill level as you are. So I love to share this information with whoever wants to listen to me, because I want us to be on the same wavelength and the same competition level when we're playing. And that's whether it's DFS year long or, us out in the backyard playing wiffle ball.
Exactly. And that's what we do.
Yeah.
And we're going to keep on doing it. I tell you what, we've had our hour of fun. Was that not the fastest hour of your night?
Just like that, brother. Just like that.
And you got dinner waiting.
Can't wait.
And you can watch us on Facebook anytime you want. We're there. Let me give a lead in for tomorrow real quick, because if they're watching, they would be really mad at me if I didn't talk about tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, the legend himself, Lenny Melnick, will lead off your day with some of the best fantasy news. He'll go through his porn box score segment. You got to dig in for that. He's ready. And then tomorrow night at 7, you know what it is? It's the happy hour. The one and only King Hap. I take a break on Wednesdays, Chappy. After this excitement all day, I take a break. I sit back. I listen.
I watch.
Yes.
I watch the games. That's it. Just watch. I don't take any notes, nothing. I just watch.
So we'll be back on Thursday morning. I'll be back in the morning. No shows on Thursday night, just morning. Chappy and I'll be back next Tuesday. You get Chappy at 7. You get Chappy and me at 9. What are we going to talk about next week? Can you give us
let me tell you, I'm planning on doing this Saturday DFS show.
Okay.
And I know you're on Saturdays as well. So, guys, stay tuned for that as far as that's concerned. I usually go around 11:30. I know you do as well. So we kind of mesh that up as well.
We may do that. I may do that Saturday too, depending on my schedule.
Yeah.
But great job once again, my friend. Always.
Love chewing it with you, Arn.
Hey, it's like riding a bike, man. It's like riding a bike. Hey, everybody, have a great night. We'll be talking to you later here on Arnie and Chappy After Dark. Good night, everybody.
Take care.